Let's wrap today's show with a little film breakdown. I've done a decent number of these on my own, but who better to do it alongside than Brian Smith, of course, the film master or maestro, if you will. Let's start along the defensive line, Brian, because this is such an intriguing position for the Ducks in 2024 with the amount of turnover they've got and the talented freshmen coming in, the redshirt freshmen from the 2023 class. But we're looking at incoming true freshmen here, Xadavien Sims out of Oklahoma. What stands out to you about Oregon's new defensive tackle?
His junior film compared to his senior film, it's totally different, like the way his frame looks. Like, you're a thin guy. Imagine yourself putting on 30 pounds in a year and still getting faster. He's put in the time off the field. He looks tremendous. Like, his junior film was okay. I saw potential. Well, this is a dude now. Good for him. And he's a kid that at a spin move, he uses his hands better. His feet don't stop after contact. He's figured it out. Like, I know Oregon's got 129 defensive linemen, but he's got a chance to play at least a little bit as a freshman. He's too athletic and too big at his size not to. They used him well at tight end. He's just a very unique football player. I'd imagine he's a young man that's going to end up getting in the rotation a little faster than some might expect.
Yeah, and I never expect true freshmen to play, particularly in the trenches, because a lot of times guys need to, get in the weight room and get nutrition program to adapt their bodies. Whereas, a wide receiver, it's, hey, if you're fast enough to play right now, you're just fast enough to play right now. It doesn't mean there isn't physical development for those guys, but it's certainly more important for the guys who are, getting dirty and doing all the grunt work down there at the line of scrimmage. And Sims has got a lot of guys who are going to push for playing time this year. You think about guys from the 2023 class like Amari Washington, Terrence Green, Johnny Bowens, and the like. You've got Aiden Breland, of course, coming in, who we've talked about before here on the show. Hard to see that guy not playing, Aiden Breland, that is. And certainly Sims has got some potential to crack the rotation. He'd have to really pop, though. And to me, when I watch him, Brian, I don't know how much you remember Eric Armstead when he was at Oregon, but that's kind of what I see. Now, Armstead was 6'8", like a unique talent, but when I watch Sims and the way that he engages and just kind of stands up other offensive linemen and then waits to shed whenever he wants, can line up at that defensive end spot, but probably more well-suited to play on the interior. I saw more Armstead than DeForest Buckner, who, of course, made up one of the best Oregon D-lines we've seen really in my lifetime. Those two guys both are still having outstanding NFL careers, but that's kind of my comp for him and where I think his ceiling is at is Eric Armstead. What do you think of that?
I think that he's just a shorter version of that. The length that you're talking about with those guys, like they could just hold guys off and look around.
Yeah.
You can't coach that. That's why they want to recruit length. This kid's arms aren't that long, like Buckner. So I mean, he was like an offensive tackle playing DN because he was just so athletic.
Well, Armstead almost played offensive tackle. He played both in high school, and I think there was some conversation at the time, will he play offensive tackle or defensive tackle? Yeah, and Sims is pretty clearly defensive tackle.
Sims is going to end up playing strong side DN when they go to three-man line. He'll play some of that. But on 3rd and 8, if you run three-man, you could put him at nose guard. How many centers are going to want him in front of him when he's just playing pass? They're going to be able to move him around and make him a nightmare. Sims is that guy. He's the kind of kid, if he went to Georgia or Alabama in their traditional 3-4, which I'm sure Dan is trying to copy in different varieties, they could play him at strong side end. He's athletic enough to do it. You get guys that can play strong side end at 270 plus, that's thumbs up all the way around.
Yeah, that's like Brandon Dorless territory, who played a lot on the interior, but also would line up at that strong side end position, not standing up on the end of the line of scrimmage. That's not something that he does. But just for reference, like I make that comp to Armstead, but it's important we discuss the length there because Buckner was 6'7" and Armstead was 6'8", and Xadavien Sims is 6'3". 4 inches is a lot. That's a lot when you're talking about
eternity, man.
Yeah, it is. When you're talking about getting your hand up to swat balls down at the line of scrimmage, the way that you can, extend your arm to get to the quarterback or just control an offensive lineman. But certainly, I think Sims has got a lot of intrigue. And, when you mention his feet just don't stop moving, I think that's what kind of reminded me of Armstead the most, is the way he would just kind of bully guys back and just dog walk him back to the quarterback, and and he's got some agility to him as well. Another true freshman, Kamar Mothudi, linebacker, really intriguing prospect for the Ducks, 4-star out of Los Alamitos, California. Look, there's a path for a true freshman linebacker to get into the rotation this year. I think the top 4 for the Ducks are set. You've got Bossa and Jacobs behind him. You've probably got Devin Jackson and probably Jerry Mixon, who saw the field just a little bit here and there. But maybe one of these true freshmen can work his way into the rotation. How do you think Kamar Mothudi could accomplish that with what he brings to the table?
Just going to depend on how much he can pick up the defense, because he's big enough right now. He looks like a college senior. That's a big kid, man. I wonder how much he can cover. Watching his film, that's not something that's a whole lot of it, but like in the box, that's 1988 SEC football. Like he's a kid that is a head knocker, and he run pretty good. I wonder if he's going to grow into a defensive lineman, or at least be a stand-up edge. He's 230. Like he's already a kid that's at the end of the rope. Like if you get bigger than 230, how many guys over 230 at the college level can cover? 1 or 2? Like you guess, like tight ends and slot receivers going to eat him alive. So either he's starving himself the next 4 years, or he's going to play edge or come off the field on third downs. That's my only concern. But like if you want to run at him, God bless you. That's your decision. Good luck to you. I'll watch the train wreck.
Yeah, I think his physicality in the run game is really what stands out the most. Now, this is a guy who also had some snaps at running back in high school.
Good luck to them.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't want to tackle that guy either, but that reminds me a little bit of a Noah Sewell type, but my direct comp here, this is a very obscure selection. I'd be impressed if you remember this guy, Michael Clay at Oregon. He wore number 46 back in the day. Now, here's my thinking, Brian. Mothudi played a little bit of running back. I think he briefly thought about playing running back in college, but he's definitely landed on playing the linebacker position. But there were, I think, I know there was at least one fake punt Oregon executed with Michael Clay, and he went rumbling into the secondaries in the Civil War in 2010. The other one was a couple years later with Rodney Hardrick, who, again, same sort of build, like big upper body, very physical, but not necessarily going to wow you in coverage. And it's hard to find linebackers that can cover. But I thought Michael Clay or Rodney Hardrick, and I don't expect you to know those specific names because they're among the most obscure you could pluck, but that's kind of where my mind went. But when you're bringing in a guy like Mothudi who has those physical traits, but maybe needs to work a little bit in coverage, how do you approach that as a defensive staff?
You got to look at him and say, what do you want to do? Because his body size is already at the end of the rope for linebacker, but he's a specimen. Like, is your goal the NFL? Because if it is, guys like you don't generally make it because you're not going to cover well enough. That's, NFL is a whole nother animal, how much they throw the ball. They got to have that sit down with him pretty quick after they get him into fall camp and like it's just full go. Don't waste his talent because he can play football. But I just think he'd be better on the edge where it's just downhill and he's never backpedaling, or it's just very rare. That's just my philosophy. And, there are kids now playing linebacker at 200 to 215 because you got to be able to cover. Though, who's he covering? That guy gets the ball.
Right.
And then you just eliminate all your talent around it because they just pick on one guy over and over and over and over again. Like you see Tom Brady do. They find a matchup. Till he took that guy off the field, they threw it at that guy every play. Just like annoying.
Well, and Brady was so good with the slot receivers. Why?
Linebacker was bad.
Yeah. You imagine, if you put a linebacker there, like, bye. That's just not. That's not going to work. Think about what this Oregon team does. Tez Johnson, dynamic route runner, one of the best in all of college football in the eyes of Pro Football Focus and anybody else that just has eyes and understands football. Anytime he could get one of those option choice routes on a linebacker, that's game over. There's just. You're not going to be able to make that sort of move. So it's difficult, but I wonder if maybe he doesn't turn into an Amarion Winston type who, could play linebacker, but plays more at that edge position for the Ducks. Will be fascinating to watch, and hopefully we get to see him on the field on the spring game on April 27th. Brian Smith, great stuff today, Brian. Thanks as always.
Thank you very much, sir.
Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, go Ducks.